But yeah, it would irk me sometimes. Like if it was like a cross between, Guttermouth and Pennywise, and I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Samiam was formed in late 1988 after the breakup of Gilman mainstay Isocracy. The first show was in January 1989 with Christ on Parade. They released records through New Red Archives and Hopeless Records in the U.S. and Burning Heart Records in Europe. In the mid-90s, the band had two releases on major labels, Atlantic Records in 94 and Ignition Tommy Boy in 97. This path achieved modest mainstream success. A video for Capsize gained a lot of airplay on MTV. They performed on the Jon Stewart Show in 94. That's fucking awesome. And the single She Found You garnered considerable radio play in 98. The band toured extensively through Europe, North America, and Japan with Bad Religion, Green Day, The Toadies, Sensefield, Blink-182, and Millencolin. My buddy Heiner and I first heard their song Routine on the skate video called Harvesting the Crust in like 97, and we immediately added it to our like mix CD or whatever for the summer when we first got our licenses and we were driving around. And so we had like all these, that's how you found songs back then. It was either thank you lists or you watched videos, and in the background of the soundtrack they'd have a song playing, and Routine was one of them, and it just became part of our mix, and we fucking loved it. And we used it when we were grinding sweet, sweet rails. Yeah, we were inline skaters, whatever, fuck off. My all-time favorite song from them is If You Say So, which is on You Were Freaking Me Out. Go check this song out. I fucking love it. It's very melodic and kind of dreary. I think I like those songs, but it's a great song. I got an intro to band member Sergie from Rob LWL, and we set up a late night Thursday call back in August. Side note, Sergie is this amazing fucking designer, which I didn't realize he designed all these album covers of all these records that I've owned since I was 16, like a lot of records since I was 16. You can check out his work over at slaptogether.com. It's SLAPPEDTOGETHER, together.com. And according to his portfolio, and I even followed up with him on this, it was like, yo, did you really design these? He's like, yeah. And according to his portfolio, he's the designer for the cover art for bands such as Rise Against, No Effects, Good Riddance, Strung Out. It looks like every Lagwagon album they ever put out, which is fucking nuts. And he also designed the Hopeless Records logo. So you should definitely go and check him out, because it's a fucking cool site. So I'll just leave it at that. I got him on the phone, and this is what we talked about. His love for the Jersey accent, our very long ramble about interviews, not having any aspirations to be in a band, what the San Francisco scene was like, how he and Jason started Samiam, Trey Cool being in the band but not being in the band, what was Samiam's following like, what it was like being on a major label, and a ton more. Before we begin, my old band Lanemeyer has our first EP, Stories for the Big Screen, available on vinyl. The record was put out by I Surrender Records, and they pressed 250 copies. I hope I said that right, because Rob always tells me I say it wrong. It's green vinyl with an etching of God I Miss You, God I Miss This Place on technically side B. And we're doing a Black Friday sale, so here are the details. You can get 20% off with promo code SURRENDER2018, SURRENDER 2018. Must be entered at checkout to receive the discount. It's also valid on the entire store. It's active from November 22nd at 12 a.m. to November 26th at 11:59 p.m. This covers Thanksgiving, Black Friday, the weekend, and Cyber Monday. You could just go to thiswasthescene.com, scroll down until you see the Lanemeyer CD artwork, and click on it. It takes you right to that page. So go do that. This week's episode is sponsored by Southern Tier Distilling Company. Building on 300-plus years of Western New York spirit production, Southern Tier Distilling Company puts that heritage into every bottle. Now expanding their market to New Jersey, Delaware, and Ohio, more of us can enjoy these premium spirits such as Southern Tier Distilling Company Straight Bourbon, Silver Medal Award-winning vodka, Smoked Bourbon, and 2X Hopped Whiskey, a whiskey distilled from their Gold Medal-winning 2X IPA. In addition to their spirits, also available are the premium canned cocktails, the Gin and Tonic, Vodka Madras, and Bourbon Smash. Great for camping, the beach, tailgating, the golf course, or in a hot tub outside on a deck. I'm sure they're probably lovely then. Available at most Buy Right, Shop Right, and Joe Canal locations, or just ask for Southern Tier Distilling at your local liquor store. Check out Southern Tier Distilling at www.stdcspirits.com, or you can follow them on Instagram at southern_tier_NJ. Southern Tier, why the hell not? Thank you again to everyone who's donated all this time to the podcast or has signed up for the Patreon page. If you'd like to help keep this podcast alive, like, yes, I have a sponsor, but sponsors come and go, and I'd like to be able to not have sponsors and just skip these parts where, granted, I do love Southern Tier, but eventually I want to just utilize my Patreon page to keep this thing alive and pay for all the bills and all the time I put into this. So if you want to help out, you can either donate you can go to thiswasthescene.com and just click on the donate button on the page, or you can go to the Patreon page, which is also a button on thiswasthescene.com, and it says for bonus material. So you could just, if you want to do that, I just kept it to $1 a month, and you get bonus things. And there's episodes where the next week I'll do clips from that episode that won't be on the podcast itself. So please help out if you'd like to. If not, just tell your friends, because that's the best way to get this thing to spread throughout the internet and to get to people. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some old school punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. I don't know if you got a chance. Usually, I'm not like the people I'm interviewing now. Like, usually, don't get a chance to listen to the stuff because I don't think anyone else besides people in Jersey really want to listen to New Jersey people talk about Jersey.
I actually want to hear people in Jersey talk, just because you don't have one, but Jersey accent.
Okay.
It's the other one, but I don't want to hear necessarily people talk on a podcast. I'd like to just hear them just talk.
People are always confused. They're always confused that I'm from New Jersey. They're like, you don't sound like the Jersey Shore people. I'm like, well, they're not fucking from New Jersey, so they don't sound like that.
Yeah, I had this friend that was from Seaside. He was actually first he was assistant to our A&R guy when we were in Atlantic, but then he ended up being our A&R guy. Actually, he was our A&R guy for the few months between finishing our record that never came out on Atlantic and being dropped.
Okay.
So he was kind of like almost our A&R guy. His name was Christian Rivera, but he was from Seaside, and I mean, he gave me just hours of delight listening to him talk, because it was so specific. And that was before Jersey Shore, and that was celebrated by people. So I just thought it was just silly and weird and fun.
Yeah.
Now maybe I listen to that accent and I just go, oh God, Jersey Shore, oh, stupid. But
yeah, I never realized I had an accent until I say orange, and people say orange.
Yeah, you got that. But in general, you sound like sorry, Jersey people, but you sound normal.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank
you, California boy.
Yeah, I'm trying to put a dig to the Jersey people in the Jersey podcast, but it's not going to work because I have nothing but love for all you peoples.
Well, typically I usually I'll start recording and then kind of dive into it after talking to you for a bit, but I'm just going to leave this part in because I like this. I just it's
good. Slice of life.
Yeah. So all right, well, I'm gonna kind of reel this in a little bit, but I'm sure if it just goes off in different directions, I really don't care because I keep this super casual. As everyone listening, the point of this whole podcast is initially in the first season was about just dissecting New Jersey, but I wanted to start talking to bands that influenced us and bands that we grew up listening to, and Samiam was one of those bands, and and Sergie was in Samiam, and he was in Knapsack, and I wanted to just get you on here to talk about Samiam, a little bit of Knapsack, and kind of go back to the scene in general. It's like the whole purpose of this is that what that scene was at that time. And you grew up in Northern California?
I did, in Berkeley, yeah. Okay,
so to go back to there, to the roots, as I ask every interview, what actually got you into music in general?
My parents bought my brother a guitar and bought me a set of drums when we were really young. And although I had a desire to play drums, I didn't have a desire to practice. So until I was like in my late teens, like drums were a chore just because they're so hard, and I was a little shithead. But I got good enough to get in my first band and play drums, and then I played in a couple bands playing drums, and then I started, wanting to write songs and stuff as I got better at playing guitar on the side. And then when I, wanted to really like write music more than just play drums, and I realized also that like my abilities as a drummer were so limited, I just switched over to guitar. Yeah, and started Samiam.
What did so like but like when you were a kid though, like what like why did you choose music?
To play, you mean?
Yeah, like what like you could have been you could have gone in a direction of I don't know. Like people just had there's something about musicians and people who get into music where they're like, fuck man, like I really want to do that. Like was there anything in general that you remember where you're like, yeah, I have to fucking do this? Or was it just the fact that your parents bought you guys instruments and like, you're playing this?
The latter. And I never really had a huge pull to accomplish anything in music.
Really?
No. Like I never had any like desire to be a rock star as a young kid. And then I didn't actually when I started playing music too in bands. I was like, hang out with my friends and like play shows and stuff. I didn't have any aspirations. And to be really honest, there's been times when I've sort of like lost my way a little bit and had aspirations since. But in general, like now I just don't have really that many aspirations either. It's like I have a desire to like travel and to write songs and record and have fun to hang out with friends, but I still don't really have like the aspirations to be a full-time musician that depends on a living from music. Yeah, it's more just like a fun thing to do and a reason to hang out with your friends and travel now.
Yeah. Was there anything that gravitated you towards just like the punk scene in general? Like, like besides wanting to play music, was there like any punk bands that like just kind of drew you in? You're like, I just really like this music.
Yeah, like Circle Jerks and Dead Kennedys and stuff like that. And then I started liking like the metal that was going around in my area, like thrash, because I'm from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And then, seeing the Dead Kennedys sort of made me feel sort of, after I saw that, I was like, ooh, metal is full of a lot of less intelligent people that I can relate to a lot less than who might be at a Dead Kennedy show. And then years later, the same thing happened. Like I saw Sonic Youth and I go, oh yeah, like I guess I'm more like into more experimental music than less limited music than punk rock. And that took me away from punk rock, kind of,
Did you feel like you like it because it kind of challenged you more on guitar?
No, yes, but I'm talking more as a listening.
Okay.
Listening.
Yeah.
Like, punk rock usually, at least back then, was angry, and I was like, well, there's a lot more emotions than just anger. And then punk rock, a lot of times, was just like, let's get to the point, be simple. And while I like that, I also like subtlety and stuff, which, now punk rock's stretched into like a huge, wide scope of types of music and stuff. But, when I was younger, punk rock was just like Black Flag, and English punk and all that stuff. And it seemed to me like from what I was exposed to, at least, I should say, it was kind of limiting,
Yeah,
in that regard.
So there's like something to listen to Sonic Youth, or there was like a bit more, I guess, like openness to it. It was just like it wasn't as confined and limiting.
Yeah, well, like punk rock talks about a dark side of life a lot of the time, but it talks about it in just like this, like I don't know. I don't want to get myself in a hole and make it sound like I hate punk rock because I don't. I still love it. But I just felt like there's something a little bit more poetic and there's a lot of like nuance about it, about noise music and indie rock and stuff than in just straightforward punk rock. Just a little smarter to me.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
gotcha. Were you going to watch bands play before you got into bands?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Before I was into punk and stuff, I saw like thrash bands a lot, and
Yeah.
I went before that. I went to a few big concerts. Like I went to AC/DC when I was a little kid, and I went to like Santana. But when my brother and I first started going to shows on a regular basis, it was more like in this, which is very similar to punk rock. And there was a lot of punk rockers at the shows, but it was like thrash music. It was like, Metallica and Slayer type stuff. And Exodus was one of our big bands that we liked.
What was it about that you like dug?
When you're like 14 or something, 15, you're just like aggressive music, and you like, Slayer, for example, was a little scary.
Yeah.
And I was, I liked that. And it's a little bit when you're a kid, you usually stick with the herd, and that kind of music was big in the Bay Area. It was like what a lot of people were doing, and so I was a dumb shit kid, went with it.
What was like? Did you guys did San Francisco have a lot of? Because Jersey, there was a lot of Legion Hall and Fire Hall shows and Elks Lodges and shit. Did San Francisco? I mean, when I say okay, yeah. So you guys were just clubs like Gilman and shit like that.
No, but there was like squats in San Francisco, and then there was like sort of more communal places like Gilman later on, but like the Farm early on, earlier in the and then there's like a lot of like there was back then there was like punk house shows and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Parties kind of things, But yeah, there was also, there was the Berkeley Square, and then there was Ruthie's, and there was Gilman a little later on. And so there were a lot of little clubs that if you started a band and you were shitty like I did, there's places to play.
Did you find that you were going to shows? Was that like what consumed your weeks, or was that just like something you did on top of other things? Like where you're kind of like, yeah, I go to shows, but I kind of...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
those things I did on top of other things. I wasn't. But then when Gilman started, then there was 2 shows, sometimes 3 shows every weekend, and I remember feeling like I was kind of in a rut a little bit because I just go to Gilman. What are you doing? I'm going to Gilman. What are you doing? Of course I'm going to Gilman. So I'd go to shows a little too much and see a lot of bands and be supportive of bands I didn't necessarily like love musically, but I was just like, trying to be part of the scene, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah. How old were you when you got into Samiam?
I guess I was 20. I'm not 100% sure. It was, I'm like a extreme late bloomer with everything in my life, including physically. So I think it must have been 20 about.
I think 20 is that old.
The singer Jason at the time was like 16 or 17.
Oh, really?
Maybe he wasn't 8, or maybe it was 18. But the thing is, when we would play in San Francisco at 21 and Over clubs, he couldn't come in. So I could, but he couldn't. Everyone else could actually, but he couldn't. Which is weird looking back now, because they sort of did a half-assed job of making him wait outside and not drink beer. But he'd end up sneaking in early, except for when, because you're supposed to be outside except for when you play.
Yeah.
But then he would just end up just like coming in, whatever, and drinking beer and everything. So I think it's a little different back then than it is now. Now I don't think you can get away with that kind of shit too often.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's probably still the same exact fucking thing. There's probably even way more easier ways for kids to do shit nowadays.
That's true.
How many bands did you actually play in before you got into Samiam?
So there's my first band, and it was called Soup.
Okay.
And then that morphed into another band, so that's 2. And then I was in a band called Sweet Baby. That's 3. Yeah, and I started meet Jason, and I started Samiam while I was in Soup. So it's like 1.5 basically, 2.5. I mean, yeah, bands.
Okay. So like when you started, the band with Jason, like how did you guys actually meet?
We were at this place called the Ashtray, which is like Jesse from Up Ivy lived, and Jake, who's the singer of this band called Filth, lived, and it was just like a typical like bunch of like 18 to early 20s people punk house, and they had a party, and I think maybe like Crimshine or something played, which was totally not unusual.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually, he was in this band called Isocracy that was kind of popular in Gilman. So I just sort of walked up to him. Hey, you want to be in a band? I'm going to start a band. You want to be in a band? And he goes, yeah. And he was drunk. I was drunk. And I was like, oh, cool. And it took a little bit of gumption for me to walk up to someone and ask him to do that. So I was really happy that he said yes. And yeah, I think he gave me a big old kiss on the freaking lips and then walked away and drank more beer, like it was just like kind of fun little thing. And then, yeah, and then it came to be, but if it didn't come to be and it was just some flaky, yeah, sure. And then he flakes out, that was just as easy could have happened,
That's kind of crazy, man. It's just, I mean, everything has a story in the beginning. It's just always this happened and that was it. And it's just kind of, but when you have so many years past it, because this is come up to like your 30th year when you guys started, right?
Yeah. That smooch was probably in 1988. Yeah, it was in 1988.
That's fucking wild.
So that's 30 years ago.
So when you started doing that though, like, why did you? Because you said you were like, you didn't have this ambitions of being like a rock star or anything like that, but music was just kind of like your way to get out of Northern California and just travel. If you like wanted to push it that far?
No, because I didn't really necessarily have any idea that we were going to be able to tour or anything. It was just, it's a lot of people have all these like grandiose answers to the question, why do you play music? But for me, it's like, life is boring and I'm not that exciting a guy to make it less boring on my own. So I've always been looking for something, whether it be skateboarding or playing music, to not sit at home in front of the TV by myself, so to speak.
Yeah.
And music is just something, that like, when I started playing guitar, unlike what I said earlier about playing drums, where I'd never practiced and stuff, when I started playing guitar, it's like this today. I could sit down and start playing along with a record or something, or just writing a song thing, and I look up and 3 hours just went by.
Yeah.
And I don't consider it practicing. I don't consider it I'm working on something. It's I also don't consider it to be the funnest thing in the world. I like it. It's fun and it entertains me, but it's not like, oh God, it was such everything I put in it, get back. It's not like, something like that. It's just, I do it. And it kind of works out okay for me. And at the end, a good 60% of the songs I write, arrange it, and make a demo, and then bring it to them. And a lot of songs I wrote the lyrics and melodies too. But yeah, I don't just write a riff and bring it to practice. Hey guys, listen to this riff.
Yeah. So what was the first show like that you guys played?
The first show we played was opening up for like this sort of peace punk kind of band called Christ and Parade in Berkeley, and we obviously didn't fit that well. We opened, but I think probably more people came to see us because it was the first show with the guys from Isocracy. And we probably sucked pretty bad, and people were like, what the fuck was that? Because it wasn't like that punk,
Yeah.
And so I would say it was a lot of people there, like meaning maybe 150 or something. But I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they're like, why is he singing, not screaming? Why is it this faster? So
yeah. Did you find but you guys, I mean, you guys put out so many fucking records. Like, did you find that, like, how soon after you guys got together? I mean, it seems like you guys decided to do the band in 88, but then 89 you put out the Underground EP.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so then you were on New Red Archives, but then like the next year you were on Lookout. Like, was Lookout? I mean, obviously
we were never actually on Lookout.
Oh, really?
We put a 7-inch on Lookout.
Yeah,
we put
EP.
our first record, that EP you're talking about, and that 7-inch same time.
Oh, no shit.
Like they all back then, like release dates weren't like really release dates for a littler band like us. It just all just came out around the same time. Like it didn't come out on whatever October 15th or whatever. It just sort of came out whenever the Nicky, the one guy that ran that label, got it, or Lookout got. Whenever the manufacturer shipped to him, it's like, oh, today's release date.
Yeah, actually, I just saw it too. I was like doing some like research on you guys. Like, and I'm sure. Do you ever like ask us a lot about how like Trey Cool was in the band?
Well, he was never in the band. Basically, we wanted to do, or actually, we didn't even necessarily want to. Billy Joe told Jason that he was putting out from Green Day, putting out a compilation on his label. And we were like, oh, wow, well, we can't really do it right now because we don't have a drummer. And he goes, don't worry about it. I'll tell Trey to do it. And it wasn't like Trey was probably excited to do it. And as it turned out, it was so hard for him to play that song. And it was just like, took forever to do the drums that he probably was like, fuck, we shouldn't have to fucking do that. But he was actually, never a member of Samiam or anything like that. But I think maybe the reason why you might say that is I think I remember that on the Wikipedia it lists a lot of people and it's really long, the people it lists, including like people I don't even know who they are that were never in Samiam.
Really?
So
Yeah.
technically,
Yeah.
he recorded with us, but he wasn't in the band or anything. Like he was fucking Green Day. He wasn't going to be in fucking Samiam.
Yeah, you guys do have a fucking gigantic list right here of everybody in the band.
Like Samiam, like we get teased actually a lot about having so many drummers, but we've had a lot of drummers and a couple of bass players, but the main songwriters and the two guitar players and it's always been the same singer. It's always been the same one guitar player, and then there was two guitar guys that play the other guitar. So the main core of 3 out of 5 people have pretty much been the same thing the whole time. It's just that we've had maybe like 5 bass players, I think, and we've had I can't even tell you how many drummers. And it's were you about to ask me why?
Yeah, like why? Like why did you guys have such a revolving door?
It's because I'm sure the assumption would be like Jason or I or James or Sean would be hard to deal with, but it's not that at all. It's just that when you're not in a really hugely popular band, drummers in particular, they're like most drummers, it seems like they're in like 2 bands or 3 bands at once, and they're always just looking for like some other way out, like to make more money and stuff. And so we've just had drummers that have just sort of gotten fed up with our half-ass ways. I said, I got to join some other band that tours more or something,
Okay, so it was
more like more money, or it's more popular.
So when you guys started off, like, did you like what was your following like in the Bay Area?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, Gilman, where we usually played, it's hard to like separate people that were just there and didn't necessarily care about your band and people that were there because they cared about your band. So I hesitate to say that we had any kind of following, although we would play at Gilman and a lot of times there would be like 200 or 300 people. Like, were all those people like loving on Samiam? I'm not really too sure about that. But we were when we were younger and we went to shows all the time and we're in this punk rock scene, we were all really like, I guess you would characterize us as like popular guys with lots of friends and stuff, especially compared to now that like I'm old and my friendscape is shrank like immensely. But I don't think, even going into like our second and third record, like, do we have like a huge following? Like, we didn't really have a following. Like, we could play a show and there'd be like 200 people one day, and then we'd play a party that was kind of like shitty and there'd be like 60 people, or we play in San Francisco at a 21 and over club, and basically 4 people that knew who we were would come, and it would be whoever else happened to be at that club that night, Yeah. So we didn't really have a following. Like, and I think it's really hard for most bands to have a local following. And like now it's like, I don't know, do bands, even local bands, like I'm thinking of LA bands, it's like, do they have followings? It seems so, until you get big, there's no such thing as a following like in LA, I feel like, because like really good bands I get to go see just play in front of 3 people, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. You know what I'm doing now? I'm just like skirting around the issue that I just don't know what following is.
No, it's just.
I know there's people that love Samiam 30 years later now, and I know that we can go and play, and like 500 people will show up here and there, or like 200 to 800 people will show up, depending what city we're at, what night of the week it is. But does Samiam have a following? Like I just don't know. You know, it's a weird concept and weird thing to gauge.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking, you know, I from what I'm gathering is the people who like Samiam now, and even back then, like fucking love you guys, you know. So maybe there's sometimes I just interviewed Jeff from Game Face yesterday or 2 days ago, and he was talking about he's like there's the people who really fucking love us, and there's people that like could give a fuck about us, you know. So there's sometimes there's just like this either or. As far as like the local, you know, following, I mean, it's funny for me because I know that in LA, I think I've heard that for like many years or decades, whatever, that it's, you don't just have this like local scene there, especially because it's more like clubs and shit. So it sounds like the Bay Area. I mean, the Bay Area, like in Jersey, we'd hear about the Bay Area, and there was like all these big bands that would play there. So we're like, holy shit, that's the place we have to go to. But I guess like living there, I guess you don't really see it is the way that everyone.
Or maybe you don't have perspective, and also you take shit for granted. You know, like I would take it for granted if we played at Gilman and there was like 300 or 400 people there. But did I have expectations that 300 or 400 people are going to be there next month when we play there? No. Right? Yeah. So I guess a band that has a following is a band that can play anywhere, and 3 or 4 or whatever just constantly show up. Or many people are going to show, and you know, like I would say, like Operation Ivy back then, and definitely had a following. But I wouldn't say until Green Day got huge everywhere, I wouldn't say they had that big of a following, because I would see them. I remember like maybe 3 months before Dookie got big, I saw them at the Berkeley Square, and it was like, you know, a third full or something. Wow. So it was like, you know, whatever. I'm just like going in circles, but it was a struggle for Samiam. It's still a struggle. It'll always be a struggle for probably any band I'm in. It's not. I've never like enjoyed that like tenureship where like, yeah, we made it. Like we can always get 1,000 people wherever we go. You know what I mean? It's like it's not part of my experience. You're like Alkaline Trio, and you just like keep showing up and selling out clubs like all the time. Yeah, I don't think Alkaline Trios played a show with 150 people that were like casually interested in them in 15 or 16 years. So so it's a very different thing when you're talking about that. What was when you guys started going on tour? What was that like? Like how long was your first tour? Do you remember? Yeah, first tour was like two solid months in Europe. Wow. And then we came home for like a week or two, and then we did a month and a half in America. Wait, your first tour was 2.5 fucking months in Europe? Yeah, or not 2.5, 2 months in Europe, and then a month and a half in the States. But like 4 months with a break in the middle of committing to being like on tour. Yeah. How the hell did you get 2 months to start in Europe? Did you guys book that yourselves? No, we got a really big booking agent at the time for punk rock that, you know, liked us and said, okay, we're going to book this extensive tour everywhere, and all these clubs are going to book you because, you know, we just booked Bad Religion, and they're huge here now, and you're the next one. Holy shit. Did you guys play with like any big bands when you were out there? No, I think we headlined every single show that first tour. You know, there was like in Berlin we played 2 shows. One was about 450 people, one was at 800 people, and it was purely because of the buzz of being booked by MID, who booked these other big bands. It was not because these people had our record and knew our songs, and they had, particularly I'm thinking in Berlin, like they had like just a really strong community around punk rock, you know. Did you think like when you got there, when you guys played, I mean, obviously no one had
had your record, and they're just like watching you play because of your fucking booking agent. You know, did you guys like afterwards were like people were like, "Fuck yeah, dude, like that was awesome," or did you? They were kind of like, "Oh,
I got a lot of fucking, that was awesome for people I talked to, but like, I think looking out in the audience, there was a lot of people just smoking cigarettes, getting drunk, going, "What the fuck, this isn't punk rock," you know, because also we both those places, Berlin, just for instance, we played in squat type clubs, and people, there was not a lot of posers there. It was just like real punk rock people, like that lived in squats and whatever, had mohawks and whatever.
yeah." I mean,
So yeah,
like,
a lot of people probably saw us and thought we were rich, dumb suburban Americans, you know.
well, I mean, you guys had like
Playing like alternative rock.
you guys had a very melodic sound. I mean, you guys, like you said, I mean, like I always kind of thought of you guys as like, I always thought fucking Jason's voice was very distinct. It was very just your band, and then there was this like kind of haunting just lead in the background that was always just this like. It was very like distinct sound. It sounded different than a lot of the bands back then. So I think like when people were showing up, it was just kind of if they were used to, I don't know, whatever like the fuck was going on in Berlin. It didn't sound like you guys. You sound like you guys were at like a new sound.
Yeah, we were. It definitely took us like probably 3 or 4 tours in Europe before, like we definitely could go and fill up clubs because people liked our band, you know.
Yeah,
it took a while.
So when you guys,
because yeah, you're right. Like we didn't sound like Bad Religion or Agnostic Front or Madball or whatever. All the other Victims Family, Nomi's, all the band and Fugazi, all the bands that were like the pillars of the touring American band scene in Europe. You know.
Yeah. Did you guys ever play with a band in that time? Different. Were you guys ever playing with the bands in those times where you were like, holy shit, I can't believe we just played with them?
Over the years, that's happened to me a ton of times. When we played with Dinosaur Jr. in San Francisco around 92, 91.
Yeah.
That was huge for me because I still do. And then they were like, loved them. They were definitely one of my favorite bands. That was pretty amazing. But, you know, you always think people talk about playing with bands as if somehow that suddenly then now we're friends with those bands or there's some sort of kinship there. But, you know, it's like bands open up for Samiam and probably think, oh, well, we could open for Samiam. But a lot of times, you know, we never meet those bands. Who knows? Might even come off as assholes just because, like, I didn't talk to anyone in the band. They go, oh yeah, like guys in Samiam, they don't even talk to the opening bands, you know, that kind of thing. So, like, I think about me thinking that way of bigger bands we open up with over the years, and I'm just like, yeah, we played with some bands, but was it really a monumentous, awesome thing? Not necessarily, you know.
Yeah. I think there's like some people just from the sidelines. It's like unless you're in it, they just kind of envision this feeling of what it's like to be in there. And the one,
yeah,
you know. And
I think if you're in a really little band that doesn't tour and doesn't like opening up for a really big band is a really big thrill, and also you get to play in front of a lot more people than you ever would have. But once you start touring and start playing your own shows and you sort of get a little bit of that, I've seen a little bit how this works. Opening up for bands or playing festivals with a lot of really big bands, you know, doesn't really like get you too excited.
Yeah. Like, did you guys, like, as you started to grow, did you start to feel like any kind of connection to like the Bay Area at all, or was it just kind of like you were your own entity and just kind of traveling around as this like, what's the word? Like kind of like your own. I think it's probably just own entity. Like where you just kind of like it was you guys and that was it, and you're just kind of traveling around playing. Where you were like you toured the bands and it was fun, and you were like but you didn't feel this connection to this thing you were in.
I mean, when we played at home, we were part of the scene, whether everyone liked us or not, which they didn't. We were like one of the bigger bands in the little Gilman scene at our time. And then when we started touring a lot, like that Lookout Gilman thing was kind of something promoters used to get people to come out. And so they would do that, say like, you know, on Lookout or from the Bay Area or like, you know, friends with Op Ivy and Green Day or whatever they would do to write on the flyer to get people to pay attention. And we were fine with all that. But did we like I should only speak for myself. Did I personally like the average Gilman band or the average band that Lookout put out? And the answer is like, not really. Like there was a couple of bands that really stood out as being great, like Green Day and Up Ivy. And at the time I really liked Mr. T Experience and Victim's Family, just a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
But most of the bands that played Gilman and most of the bands that had this like rudimentary Ramones kind of rip-off sound, like I had, no interest into and I never like actively discouraged anyone from lumping us into that. Like I didn't say, hey, don't put that on the flyer or whatever. But like maybe sometimes it kind of irked me a little bit to be like lumped into that because I felt like not that we were so great, but we were trying to do something different than that.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it's just like people are. It's kind of bad when people are trying to do a description of a band and you're like, we don't sound anything fucking like this. Like we shouldn't be lumped in with that at all. And you're just using this bigger name just to get people to show up for us here.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, anything to get people to show up when it's hard to get people to come to your show, it's fine with me. But yeah, it would irk me sometimes. Like if it was like a cross between, Guttermouth and Pennywise, and I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That would be a little irksome, but no big deal. Who gives a shit?
So when you guys did Clumsy, you guys were on Atlantic, and but like, what was it like? Was it like just being on a major label? I mean, it sounds like it was just kind of like Clumsy is a really good record, and like when you put that record out on that label, was it like kind of holy shit, this is pretty awesome, or was it just like, it's just part of the thing, we just want to keep fucking touring and this allows us to do this?
I mean, there's a lot of awesome parts about it. We got to make a record that we learned a lot making because there was a big budget and we worked with like amazing producers and stuff. And then, we got on like bigger tours because of Atlantic, and we got some radio and we got some little MTV and we did a lot more interviews and stuff. All stuff that I enjoyed doing and wanted to do and wanted to experience what that was like. But did it like change our like attitude, like, or my attitude? Like, did I think, oh shit, this is happening, we're going to be rock stars, or do I want to? There was times when maybe a little bit I sort of, like I said earlier, I used phrase, I lost my way a little bit, but it would be like, I let myself think that maybe like we were getting bigger than we were, and then I was disappointed that we weren't because I'd be like blasted back into reality by playing in Topeka and 3 people showed up or whatever, Yeah. But I never like none of us had any kind of like suddenly our expectations completely changed, and our attitudes changed, and like definitely our music didn't change at all. So. To answer your question, it was just an opportunity that we took. It didn't pan out as well as it panned out for other people, but also wasn't some kind of nightmare at all either. So it was just, you got to take the good with the bad when you're in a band because the odds are stacked so heavily against you. You just got to, when there's opportunities to rise, you got to weigh it out. And if it might not be right for you, but for us, we felt like, oh, it's right for us, and we'll do this. And when it spat us out at the end, unceremoniously, we just got dropped, like shoved to the curb.
Yeah,
we were just in the same spot as we were before. Like we weren't like, oh fuck, now we don't get tour buses. Oh fuck, now we don't get like fancy this and that. We didn't feel that way. We were just like, okay, back to the shit. We know this really well.
So when you guys were on Atlantic, is that when you guys finally got to go on tour on a bus, or was it you guys doing that prior to
that? It wasn't until then. It wasn't necessarily because that, and we never did a U.S. tour in a bus. We just did European tours in buses.
Okay.
In America, we never got big enough to be in a bus. Even when we were in big ass tours, we were like following with our bus, which was like an airport shuttle bus, somewhere between like a shitty little bus and a van, but
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I first heard of you guys. There's this skate comp. This it was more like the aggressive inline skating back in the day, and there was this video compilation called "Harvesting the Crust." It was these guys who were out in like middle northern America, like where the fuck, like Minnesota and like Wisconsin and shit like that. And Routine was on. They put that on the video, and that's how like a bunch of us found out about you guys. Did you ever heard of this video?
Back then, when you were in a band like somewhat of note, like Samiam, you're just constantly on different videos and comps. So like maybe I knew at the time, but I don't remember that now or anything, you know. And it's like back then when there's magazines and videos and DVDs, you get you know, we were on surf ones, we were on skateboard ones, we were on BMX bike ones, we were on mountain bike ones, we were on inline skating ones. You know, it's just like there was this huge market for that doesn't exist now. You know.
Yeah. Did you guys ever actually get fucking paid for that shit?
Sometimes, you know, it depends. It depends on the song they used. It wasn't a song where we had already sold off the publishing, because we sold off our publishing for like quite a bit of money. And that meant for those songs, these little, like, you know, we'll give you $300-$500 for a song. The publishing company takes that because they're trying to recoup their
right,
what they gave us, which, you know, it's like 25 years later, and we did two big publishing deals, and neither of them have come close to recouping. So,
what was like the majority of your guys' songs about? I mean, you have a lot of songs, so it's kind of a pretty loaded question, but was there like a theme?
You know, I think with Sam I Am, the majority of songs are about alienation, and there's not a lot of songs that are happy and about love in a positive way. You know, like the whole Clumsy record, almost all of it is when Jason's stepfather died, and he wrote just 6 or 7 of the songs are about him and his sisters reacting to that. And you know, there's a song on it called Stepson, and it's and he doesn't paint the most flattering portrait of his stepdad.
Yeah.
But then there's another song called Tag Along that's about his younger sister not understanding. It was his stepdad, but their real dad, and her not understanding what's going on, like when's daddy coming home kind of thing. And he's like, oh man, she's too young for that. Like, who's going to tell her? How do you tell her? Oh shit.
Like, did you find that like, when you guys were writing records and shit and all the songs that you had, because I see you have a lot of, like, you and Jason wrote a lot of the songs. Did you, was your collaboration lyrically, or like your part of it lyrically, or was it more just the music?
I like I said earlier, I think I said that I've written lots of songs, lyrics also besides music, and maybe maybe like 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7, and the last one being like now 18 years ago or 17 years ago, with a record called Astray. I wrote a song 1 or 2, and early on I just wrote the lyrics and said, hey dude, can you fit these in to this, figure out a way, and he would do it. But then as I got more interested in that, I'd write the lyrics and make them fit in a very specific way to the music. And because I can't sing, I would like record a melody for the lyrics, you know, where I was playing the melody of the words, and rightfully so, he just kind of ignored that. And sometimes he ignored the phrasing, and sometimes he actually sort of changed the lyrics to suit himself better, which probably at the time irked me because I'm a fucking artist. No,
it's fucking art, man.
Irked me because I had an ego and I was dumb. Not irked me as much as like fuck him. It was more just like, oh, I don't. Why you changed that? No, that line means something kind of different by adding no instead of saying yes. But also he just with like the song on the Stray, the last song I wrote lyrics to, he just ignored and like I say, rightfully so. I'm not saying it's like sour grapes anyway. All this like effort I put into really writing it, like with the melody. And since then, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna. If it's gonna be less me helping him and me forcing him to sing every night my thoughts, I'm not gonna like impose that on him, because I would like to write lyrics. With Racket Club, I would love to write lyrics, and melodies, and tell him what to do. But I feel like I set my place to do that. Yeah. So, and both of them write such good lyrics and sing, mean what they sing, because it comes from like, you know, a place within them. That sounds really hippie and stupid, but whatever. For lack of a better way of saying that. And both are, you know, probably like 1,000 times better at writing lyrics to me. I just sort of like laid off, you know. Like, for example, if Jason, who does play guitar, but not that seriously, came up to me and go, "Hey, I want you to play this song I wrote," and you know, and I wasn't 100% thrilled with it or whatever, or it was like, "Oh, this is whatever," you know, I know I would know how he felt somewhat, because I'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that," but that's not like, there's no words involved, and it's not using my actually body. Well, it's using my hands, but it's not using, like, when you sing, you know, it's coming from your like physically, not, I'm not talking like emotionally, but physically, it's coming from inside you. And then there's that whole other element of emotion that's like coming, you know, from the heart, man, or whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Like, it's like imposing that on someone else is kind of strange.
I've never heard someone actually put it like that, where you are literally, it's literally coming from inside you, like physically, like air is coming out of your fucking body. But that's an interesting way to look at it. That's pretty deep.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm not trying to be deep.
I know. I'll just fuck with you.
I don't sing. It's because
can you
physically
think?
I'm just like not blessed with it. I'm just like a shitty singer. And, you know, I can be a shitty guitar player, or I was a shitty drummer, and it doesn't bother me. I go up there and make an ass of myself. Who cares? But even if I was singing in front of one person, and it was shitty, and I could sense the other person's going, "Wow, this guy really is bad at this," because it's like, it's coming in from my freaking lungs and my stomach and through my throat, not my mouth. It's way more revealing than what I do with my hands.
That's more vulnerable
on a guitar. Yeah.
Because it's like, because the guitar is going to sound like a Les Paul or a Fender. The sound is the sound. I mean, if you hit the chord wrong, it's going to sound like shit. But if you hit the chord right, it's going to sound like that through the amp. But I mean, your voice is coming out through your.
It's detached.
Yeah.
It's abstract. It's an abstract and detached expression. I mean, I guess when you solo sometimes.
Yeah.
It's that feeling, like, you know, I don't really solo live like that, like free form.
Yeah.
But like in the studio, when I'm like in band practice, sometimes, you know, you just sort of go for it and let it go. And it's somewhat like singing. And I think if you're like an amazing soloist like Jay Mascis or something, it's exactly like singing. But you know, I'm no Jay Mascis. So.
Well, I mean, if you watch people who do shred, they literally, their mouths are like kind of like, they almost tweak a little bit. It's like it's coming out of them in a sense.
Well, yeah. Even people that don't shred, even people that really fucking suck, if you look at their mouth when they're going ding ding dong dang, their mouth's doing that. So yeah, you're right.
Maybe that's just coming to their soul. Maybe their soul just completely fucking sucks.
Well, they don't hear their own. They can't like, determine whether what they're doing is crap because they're doing it. Right? So they're like ding ding blah, ding ding ding.
Yeah, man.
But they think that they're Jimi Hendrix.
As long as they're happy. As long as they're super content and happy. So I heard a story. This is like a decade ago or so, when we were in Chicago. Like, my old band was in Chicago. My friend Amber, she went to see you guys, and you know, I don't know what the story's about, and if it sucks, I can totally cut out. But you guys had played the Fireside, and you're in the beginning of the set, or in the set, and then like your bass player just like walked off, went into your bus, grabbed his shit, and then walked off in the distance and like quit. Is that a true story?
No.
That's not a true story.
That's not a true story.
Well, maybe I swear to God, it was you. I'll have to ask her about this.
No. Well, I mean, that story could have been about Samiam, but it wasn't a true story.
Wow.
No one's ever quit Samiam on tour. That's for damn sure. I can tell you that right now.
Wow. Fuck. This whole time I thought that was a real story. That's crazy. Jesus. Wow. Okay. All right. But moving on. So like, at what point?
No one has quit Samiam. No one has quit Samiam because
unless they were fired by you.
They thought we were dicks, and no one has been. One person was kicked out because Jason thought he was a dick, and other people have been like slowly pushed out because people didn't like him. But definitely no one has quit Samiam because they got in a big old fight or anything like that. That's never happened.
What was the dynamic like with you guys? You got like, I mean, it kind of sounds like you expressed it, but like when you guys were on tour and in the van and those long drives, did you guys all get along? Or was there a couple members that just like were kind of, not, there wasn't this great relationship? I mean, obviously you said that you pushed a few out, but I mean, like you.
There were some members that like certain people liked less and would be irritated by, but there was never There's one time when Sean, who was then our bass player, but now has been our guitar player for, 20 years, whatever, he punched MP, our drummer, in the face. First day in tour in Münster, Germany. No, it's the other way around. He was taunting and fucking with MP, and he's very good at that. Sean is extremely good at pushing buttons when he wants to. And MP just got really upset, punched him in the face, went into his bunk in the bus. First night of tour, and we had a great show, like 600 people. People went off. It was just an amazing show, and that was the culmination of the night. And I remember going into his bunk and going in there, and go, "Hey, dude, like, are you all right?" And like, I had to comfort him, and also tell him, like, that's really not cool. Punching a guy in the band, that is ridiculous. Like, under no circumstances would I ever punch someone in the face that I can think of that would ever do that, and you can't do that either. And he was crying, and it was just like this thing. But they made up. Like a couple of days later, they were like, they were cool. So
where was that show at?
That was in Münster, Germany.
Oh, okay. Holy shit, that's crazy.
That was like in 98.
Oh man,
97 maybe.
How at what point did you actually around this time? Let's see, because you guys. There's this big break. There's a big break between You're Freaking Me Out and Astray, and in that time is that when you went into Knapsack?
Well, so we made You're Freaking Me Out in 1996.
Okay.
But it didn't come out in America until like till a year later, at least a year later, and then we made Astray, and it's 3 years. It was 3 years, 3.5 years. So
it's not that long. It's not a long break, but I mean, in that time though, because you were in both bands, so yeah. You joined them. You joined Knapsack. Let's see, which fucking record? It was right as day 3 of My New Life was coming out.
Yeah, maybe like 4 months before that record came out. Like It had already been recorded.
All right.
But I didn't join Knapsack as a replacement for Samiam. I joined it because I liked their band and I wanted to play with them. It wasn't. I read an interview that Blair had done when Knapsack got back together a couple years, and he got it totally wrong. The singer and like founder of Knapsack answered a question totally incorrectly, and it was that like Samiam had broken up. I joined Knapsack, and then Samiam got back together, Knapsack broke up, and I went back to Samiam, I was like, when I read that, I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you? That's completely wrong. Like, were you paying attention?
Which I mean, obviously that didn't really ruin you guys' friendship because you're in Racket Club with him now, but.
Oh no! I'm not. No,
I know. I'm not. I know you were not totally not talking shit. I mad totally at him. Oh, 100%. I get that.
I was like, wow, you really remembered that wrong when you answered that guy's question. I didn't give a shit. Who gives a shit?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
When you joined Knapsack and there was like a break were you playing bands both simultaneously though, or was it just a break between the
Yeah.
last record? Okay,
Yeah.
it was a break.
Yeah.
All right. And then so when you were on tour with Knapsack, actually I saw a video. There's a video out there where you guys are playing this school with At the Drive-In. Do you remember this show?
Well, we did a whole tour without the drive-in, so I don't know what school you're talking about.
There's this video out where you guys are. It's like a fucking basement of a church, or just this. It looks like it's in a school, like a school classroom or something like that, or like one of those classrooms that are in the basement of churches, where they have all their religious classes or whatever. And you guys are playing Courage, or you guys are playing. You open up with Cold Enough to Break, and then you break into Courage Was Confused, and then the next clip is like At the Drive-In playing their set. And I remember seeing this fucking night. And it's on YouTube somewhere. It's amazing. But what was that fucking tour like? Because that was before anyone. I mean, that's when they had In Casino out.
Yeah, no one knew who either band were. I mean, in some shows there was like 50 people. But the funny thing is, At the Drive-In didn't play after us. They opened for us that tour. It sounds silly now, but they opened that.
Yeah, I think it was edited to where the video I saw it was like that. But
that's like appropriate revisionist history right there, where they go, oh yeah, we better put that At the Drive-In second on that video.
I mean, that was when that video came out. When I saw it, it was in 2000, because we were in Chicago. And someone had that video there. So, I mean, that no one even knew who the fuck they were then. That was right at the time that a Relationship of Command had come out. So that's weird that they're positioned like that. But what was that tour like? I mean, I know, granted, you guys...
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Like, the At the Drive-In guys were younger. But, like, Omar and I really bonded on that tour. And I loved Cedric. He's a really funny guy. And it was great. We had a really great time on that tour.
Yeah.
And like when it got back to LA and San Francisco, like I say, all those shows were really small, just freaking tinier than tiny. We played a big show in New York because we opened up for Archers of Love, but the other ones were very small. But when we got back to California, like we played our Knapsack's last 4 shows, which was San Francisco. A couple in LA, and those were all like 400 people that really knew and loved the band. And actually after that I did too. And I get that, which is really nice. But also it's kind of bittersweet, like 400 people at the Troubadour in LA, and okay, well now we're not a band anymore.
Yeah. Was that because you guys had announced that was going to be your last show?
For At the Drive-In, of course.
Well, I mean, no, At the Drive-In, like, they didn't. I mean, we don't have to go and talk about them the whole time, but I mean, I don't feel like they even had giant shows until they got back together recently after like that Coachella show years ago.
No, that last the year or so after Relationship Command came out was like they're selling out everywhere they played. Because Samiam actually played their like third to last or second to last show. It was in Lyon, France, and there was a good 800 people there.
Jesus.
But like you could tell they were about to break up because they were just not. A couple of them were talking to each other in the band, and then when they started, when we were playing, there was like stage diving and the whole shit. And the second they came on stage, Cedric went on stage and said, "Just like if you guys start dancing, we're gonna stop playing. We're going to go out here," meaning like you got to sit and watch us. He was just in a fucking piss poor mood, and he sort of took it off from the audience, and the audience didn't take it well. That might have flew in other places, like, "Ooh, wow, okay, Mr. Cedric," but then the audience was like, "Fuck this guy. What the fuck's wrong with this guy?"
Wow. Jesus. Yeah. That's crazy.
Same thing. I mean, Fugazi would do that kind of thing, like listen, don't just mindlessly dance around and stuff. And some people like really respect that. Or some audience would really respect that, and other audiences are like, "You can't tell me what to do with this. It's free expression or whatever." And the Lyon show was very much you can't tell us what to do. Who do you fucking think you are kind of reaction.
Yeah, that would kind of piss me off. I'd be like, I'm supporting your music. I'm here. I don't do whatever the fuck I want. I mean, granted, I love those bands, but I would just be like, fuck you, man.
So do I.
Like,
do I. And it was hard for me to watch like a band that I love like not get along and have a shitty time with such. And they were like that tour. That time they were on the cover of every magazine like in Europe and America and Japan and whatever. Like it was like a really amazing time for those guys, you know?
Yeah, it like finally hit that thing, and it sounded like it just got like, all right, no, because especially if the band's not getting along, I mean that's the kiss of death. It's just like it's just a matter of time before it's fucking done.
Yeah.
So were you on the album for This Conversation's Ending, starting right now?
The third one, yes.
Yeah. How much input did you have on that record? Because that record's fucking phenomenal.
I mean, I think when you hear it, you could tell musically it's much different. There's more like little Samiam, Sergie kind of guitar parts.
Oh, there's
right?
a huge difference between that and Day 3 of My New Life. Day 3 of My New Life, I think there's like 4 good songs, like 1 through 4. I love those songs. After that, the record it loses me. But This Conversation's Ending right now is like that whole record beginning to end is fucking so fucking good. Like I'll even put it on to this day and I'm like, I can't believe this record's so fucking good.
Okay. I wouldn't talk about it like that, but okay.
I know, like, I mean, obviously you're not going to see it. I'm not doing this to, like, to kiss your ass at any means. I mean, like, I'm just, like, saying it out loud just for anyone. Like, I just love that fucking record. But there's a giant difference between that. And then, obviously, you know, you weren't Jealous Sound, but, like, just the next record, when Jealous Sound came out, I mean, Killing It With Kindness, I was like, damn, like, how did he do another fucking record like this? But obviously,
you thought, how could he do that without Sergie?
I was like,
how's that even possible?
How did Pedro fucking pick up and do the shit? But yeah. So, who wrote Cold Enough to Break?
With all Blair songs, it's like it starts off with pretty much something that Blair wrote because he sings to what he can play on guitar, right? So if I write a song, with a couple of exceptions in Racket Club. Actually, there was one song on that was all me. But in general, like the basic chord structure of any song, it has to come from Blair for him to be able to get behind it and sing to it.
Yeah, because he's got to strum it and sing at the same time, right? Is that like
yeah?
What you're talking? Yeah.
I mean, other people aren't like that, but he's like that. You know, he's like
I got to play this live, so I don't want to fuck it up.
Well, I got to come up with something here, and you're making it real hard with you coming up with this all crazy freaking Samiam riff right here. Like, I want to do this like simple doo-dah, like knapsack riff or whatever. That's much easier for me to start with. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Completely, you know.
What was the song that you said you wrote on that record, like all the way through?
It's, we're actually having a little Racket Club band practice in my house because we're writing a new record.
Oh, nice.
And the bass player, Ian's right here. Say something.
Hiya.
And he.
Hi, Ian.
he just yelled out the name of the song on the Racket Club record. Is that what I wrote the whole thing? But
wait, and on the Knapsack record?
On the Racket Club record.
Oh, okay. I think you wrote a whole song on the Knapsack one.
Oh, it's called Balancing Act.
Oh my god, I love that song. Yeah. They're happy with theirs and they've got them. Yeah, and I'm happy doing less. I love that line.
Yeah, that one. That is it. Now I remember you reminded me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, did you guys, when you guys were on tour, because I feel like Knapsack, yeah, you're right. Like between Samiam and Knapsack, like you guys, I never felt like you guys had this bigger following that I thought you guys should have like had.
When we played the reunion, we played a bunch of big shows.
Yeah.
But in the span of the band, when we were really a band, and before I was in the band, Knapsack was a spectacularly uncelebrated entity.
Yeah, I totally felt that. I saw a video of you guys playing Fest a couple of years ago, and someone like stage dove in the first song. Was that you in the front who he ran by?
We played Fest twice. Yeah, the first one I remember someone stage dived and knocked my pedals out and stuff.
Yeah. I think you even got in the mic. You're like, that's the first time someone's ever done that at a Knapsack show.
You mean, yeah, not Bayside because they did that in New York and that was before that, and they did that in LA on that tour. But yeah,
That's crazy.
I know you're telling me things that you know. It's weird from YouTube that I don't know, so it's kind of.
Well, yeah, it was just this video of you guys playing the show, and I think I saw it a couple of years ago because you guys were reunited. I was like, oh shit, this is awesome, and someone did that, and I was just like laughing because I even noticed that. I was like, why the fuck would someone do that? That's so crazy. All right, I'll ask you a couple more questions just because I know I don't want to hold up any more of your time, but so actually, so Rob Muscatello, who connected us, you know, I'm talking about Rob from New Jersey.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I love that guy.
So I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, dude, you know, what are some questions that you want to know?" And you know, he had mentioned he had two of them. One, actually, the second one. The first one he wanted to know is, do you think that you can outdrink him?
No, I definitely cannot outdrink him. I barely drink now. In my height, because I'm a skinny guy, I could get hungover if you like accidentally blew with your alcohol breath. You know, it's like I'm terrible drinking. In fact, actually, he's asking that question because we played at Crossroads in Jersey, Samiam, on my birthday, not last year, but the year before. And it was one of those shit shows where like everybody wanted to buy the guy in Samiam a shot for his birthday. And so I just got when I woke up in the morning, I woke up in my friend's hotel room, and I didn't know where my keys were. I didn't know where my wallet was. I had my phone. I couldn't remember if I helped put my like cord bag and amp, and guitar into the van that went back to Brooklyn. I just lost everything, and I had a splitting headache, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh God. It's one of the last times I've been really like just way too drunk, because nowadays I just really don't drink hardly at all, almost at all.
Yeah. God, I think
so. To answer your question, it's Rob by far takes the cake on that one.
I think he just wanted just to hear that and have it documented.
I think I might have met him because we were just hanging out. And some friend of his I knew, and he was the first thing he said to me is, "Can I buy you a shot?" I think that's probably like as if I was a really hot girl that he was with his freaking wife, I guess, but it's as if I was a hot girl and he wasn't married.
He also wanted to know, since it's the 30-year marker for Samiam, do you guys have anything in the mix?
We're going to Europe next month, and we're sort of working on this little Canada and little Midwesty thing for maybe May of next year. But Samiam is such not a thing. It's like when we do things, we do it as well as we can, and we get excited about it. But in between that, like I live in LA, Jason the singer lives in San Francisco, and two guys live in Brooklyn, and one guy lives in Gainesville. So it's
wow.
you can't get more not a real band than Samiam, you know? Like in Racket Club, we all live in the same city. We practice regularly. Just in the last year, we've gone 2 or 3 times. We made a record and stuff, and it feels much more, even though no one's heard of Racket Club, it feels like more of a real band than Samiam.
Yeah.
Because we're like, you know, I don't know, we're just like a real band. And Samiam, when we're together, or when I'm talking about it, like to you right now, it feels real, but it barely feels real in my waking life.
Do you ever think that you guys could just like record, because everyone does the remote recording or whatever, just do a song or two and put it on Spotify or on your own? Just be like, hey, let's just like write a song and let's see how we could do this. You know, we should have the drums track there and then send it to here. And do you ever guys talk about that?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
To me, that's bullshit. Bands that do that are just missing the point.
Interesting.
You know?
Why? Because you're not in a room together?
Most of those late career records that suck are the product of that kind of attitude. It's like if you're gonna do it, you gotta the men and women of the band have to like get together, get back into sync, and write. You can't just like phone it in like that. It's. I mean, everyone knows when it's phoned in, you know.
Yeah. No,
I don't want to be involved in that. But you know, in 2005, when we were in Australia, we practiced a bunch because we had a lot of days off, and we wrote 4 songs musically, and Sean and I, the other guitar player, and I always have at any one time 12 songs each. That would be ready to go. But then when we played Riot Fest, like later in that year, we recorded a demo of those songs, and now it's 2018. It's like 2.5 years later, and Jason just never sang to it. And it's just a sort of situation where I think Jason would like to do it, but he hasn't. And it's like, I don't want to push anyone to do anything they don't want to do, or they don't feel like they have the time to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like I said, we're not broken up or anything, but it's just not happening at the moment.
No, I get it. I totally get it. So 2 more questions. Do you still go to shows now? Like, do you go watch bands play now?
Yeah.
Like, who is someone like who's actually a band right now that you totally love, that you like seeing live?
I really love Beach House. It's probably my favorite new band. I'll see Dr. Jr. or Jay Mascis every time it comes around. I still like music. I went to Slayer. It was freaking incredible.
Jesus.
I'm old, but I'm still mentally young in the head about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I go see little bands and little clubs all the time.
Really?
On a Monday night when I work in the morning, it doesn't bother me.
No shit. God, I don't even do that shit anymore.
Jason's the same way. He sort of runs this bar in Albany, California, where I went to high school, and he watches bands and posts pictures of it on Instagram just 5 nights a week, and he loves it too. We're like dumb shit music lovers. We started this podcast where I use the term unhealthy preoccupation with music, or whatever, and it's like we definitely both still have it, And Jason has such an way more open mind about different types of music and different bands than I do.
That's awesome.
So,
wow. Everyone, I'd say the majority of people I've talked to and interviewed, they've kind of just given up on going to shows. It's cool that you do it so much. For me, I'm not married. I don't have kids. He's married and has 2 kids. So you can really pat him on the back for really having a rad attitude about music and stuff. Yeah, because that's usually the excuse that everyone goes well, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I don't have time. That's kind of impressive. It's very impressive that someone has that and they're like, it's not a fucking excuse. I still go. All right. So what do you want to plug before we end this?
I don't want to plug anything, but I hope people look into this record club business. That'd be nice, because that's I hope if anyone's listening in Europe, they come see us. Samiam, but Record Hub has a record, and we're working on a new one. I hope someone might listen to this and check that out. That'd be cool. But if they don't, that's cool too.
All right, last question. I'll let you go. And I'm interested to see how you're going to answer this. What scene ethics do you still hold on to this day? Irrationally, I hold on to a whole bunch of them, and I actually condemn other bands for not following them irrationally. If I think of bands getting a little too mercenary with the marketing, or their Facebook presence, or the meet and greet shit, or they have stupid banners all over the place. I'm just I'm freaking leftover crack or something. I'm like, fuck those guys. It's weird. It's I don't have that much morals about things that people really actually get mad at, low ticket prices and guarantees, because sometimes shows are quite expensive, and Racket Club opens up. We will open up with Ghetto Kids, and some of those shows are expensive. And if someone complains, my attitude is don't come if it's too expensive. Who gives a shit? Yeah.
But some of those other kind of little ethical things, or just even perception things, mainly more perception things, banners and glitzy ass shit and hairstyles and stuff, very much irk me, just as much as if I was a 15-year-old punk rocker.